Hey guys, it's Melissa here from Agrestic Acres, and I thought I would give you a peek into something that I just started working on. So I'm calling this my bread challenge. As you know, with homesteading and hobby farming, one of the main purposes is to just develop different skills. So obviously, I'm learning about chickens, we're getting ducks soon, and one of the things I absolutely love to do is to bake. So I've had this book for several years, and I have made my own bread with yeast a bunch of times, but I always make the same simple recipe. It's actually the basic recipe from this book. It's on page, well, the basic recipe, the master recipe is here. And you can see how simple this is. Just water, yeast, salt, and flour. That is it. That is all you need to make simple, basic sandwich bread. It's very easy. It's this recipe, this book is called 5 minutes a day. It really is 5 minutes a day. I would say the actual work time to go from just your ingredients to this bread probably is about 10 minutes. You have to make the recipe, and that takes maybe 5 minutes. You let it rise for 2 hours, and then you take the dough and move it into the loaf pan. Let it rise again there for 40 minutes if it's fresh dough, or an hour and 40 minutes if it had been in the refrigerator. So after the second rise, you put it in the oven and cook it. I mean, we're talking about 10 minutes of work at the absolute most total for fresh bread every day. My kids actually prefer this to traditional bread from the store. Even, the good bread from the store. We don't usually buy just the white bread, but the, bread with all the tasty seeds and nuts. They actually prefer this bread. So here's a basic recipe on page 26. And up until about a week ago, the only thing I had made from this book, because I was being extremely afraid, is the crusty white sandwich loaf here on page 43. I even have it dog-eared because I make it so often. And this is what I have right here. It's very simple. You can also use this basic recipe to make dinner rolls. So I do make the sandwich loaves and the dinner rolls, probably at least every other week or so for the past couple of years. But I hadn't really been doing it on a very regular basis because it does take time. It's easier to go into the store and just buy bread. But trying to be more self-sufficient, trying to save money, trying to do things myself, I'm making a goal for myself to be making most of our bread now. So I'm doing what I'm calling the bread challenge. And if you want to find me on Instagram, you can look here. My name is Melissa Grace 4, and I've hashtagged these posts Agrestic Acres and the hashtags bread challenge. And I also have the name of the book here, which I'll show you again. Artisan bread in 5 minutes a day is another hashtag. So if you want to follow along, I'm just kind of doing this mostly for myself, for fun, just to challenge myself. So like I said, I'd made this recipe a bunch, and then last week, step out of my comfort zone for the first time. It was a very, very small step. I made this recipe here on page 204, the soft American style white bread. And the only difference is a little bit of flour and then butter. So it wasn't a huge step outside my comfort zone. It was pretty simple, but I figured we're gonna go with it. I didn't notice a big difference between this bread and the soft white style. They're very similar to me. I actually didn't taste too much of it. My kids eat most of the bread here, but they liked it. They like both of them, and they have it for toast in the morning with some jam. They have it for sandwiches. You can make this into the bread rolls for dinner if you're having soup, especially this time of year in the winter. So that was what I did for last week. So I'm trying to challenge myself to make one recipe from here a week. And this book has everything from rolls to pastries to flatbreads to pizzas. I mean, there are so many recipes in here. So this week, what I'm challenging myself to make is the chocolate bread, which is on page 211. And as you can see, this one is a little bit more intense than some of the other ones. It's not hard, it just takes a little more time. I'd say this to make this batter took me more about 15 minutes, so not quite 5 minutes, but still not too quick, not too long rather. And my kids had a really fun time helping me with this recipe. So I made this last night, and I put the dough into the refrigerator. It's right here. I started to kind of fiddle around with it, which is why it doesn't look all nice and smooth like when it has just risen. But I let it rise for 2 hours in here, and then I was kind of late last night, so I didn't really feel like baking it last night. So I put it in the refrigerator, and you can either bake it right away and let it rise for 40 minutes. So traditionally what you would do now is you would roll this out. This makes 2 loaves, 2 round loaves, not in the loaf pan. you would roll it out and you would let it sit for 40 minutes and rise for 40 minutes out of the fridge. I'm sorry, if it had not been in the fridge, it'd be 40 minutes. Since mine has been in the fridge, it has to rise for an hour and 40 minutes, which is very typical of most of the recipes in this book. So it says right here, it tells you, just rise for 40 minutes if using fresh bread, unrefrigerated dough. So I'm letting it kind of sit out for just a few minutes here. And in just a moment, I'm going to form it into the 2 round loaves, and then I'm going to let it rise for, an hour and 40 minutes. Probably might end up being longer because I'm going to be doing other stuff, and that's okay with bread. I feel like it doesn't have to be a perfect rising period. If you're busy, you're running around, you're leaving the house, etc. Just do the best you can. So we'll check back in later, and we'll let you know how it works out to get the bread on the cookie sheet here, and of course at the end how it tastes. So if you want to follow along with the bread challenge here, you can get this book on Amazon. If you go on there, you'll see there's a bazillion, I think 2,000 or something, good reviews. I believe this is an older version. There's a newer one. I'm not sure if there's any difference. I imagine most of the recipes are pretty much exactly the same. I will be doing some videos on bread, but mostly I'll just be posting a picture and kind of a few thoughts on Instagram. And like I said, if you want to follow along on Instagram, the bread challenge will be on there, as well as just some of the stuff we do in the homestead. I don't always feel like taking pictures, taking videos all the time. So sometimes I just snap a quick picture of the kids. So you can go find us there on Instagram. All right, so we're going to get working on this bread and see how it turns out. I'll be back soon. Thanks. Okay, here we go. Oh, it's so good. So that will bake for, it says 35 minutes in the book, but we are going to do for 30. Because our oven bakes a little bit quickly. Okay, so I just pulled this out of the oven and I'm cutting it here. I actually had to bake it for about 42 minutes, which was pretty surprising for my oven because our oven usually cooks things quicker. Ooh, that piece came apart. It's probably not cool, but looks really good. It looks like it's cooked. See if we can get this triangle. There we go. To show you a little bit what it looks like. I don't think the kids will mind. Oh, it looks so good. So this could have been extra cook time because I made this ball a little bit bigger. It definitely doubled in size since I took it out of the oven, so that extra rise was good. We have sampled our bread, and it's very interesting because it looks like chocolate cake. So you're thinking it's going to taste like a chocolate cake, but it actually tastes more like bread with a little bit of chocolate. We expected it to be more chocolatey. It's really good, definitely unique, but if you're thinking it's going to taste like cake, it doesn't taste like cake. It tastes like bread with a little bit of chocolate. But hey, we ventured out of our comfort zone. We tried something new, and I still have another loaf in the fridge, another ball of dough in the fridge that can make another loaf of these. So I'll make that in a few days. These breads can stay refrigerated, this recipe particularly, for 5 days before it needs to be frozen. So I figured I'll make this, and then maybe 3 or 4 days I'll make the other one for the kids to enjoy. But at least it was a success. At least it turned out right. That's good. So not chocolatey, definitely more of a bread, for sure bread, but I mean, it's gorgeous too. And this was my first go. I'm sure as I get better at making these breads, I can make them look even fancier. Thanks for checking in, and we'll be back soon. Remember, if you are interested in following the bread challenge, it's hashtag bread challenge on our Instagram, which is MelissaGrace4. And also we can be found under hashtag Agrestic Acres. Have a great day.